The first weekend of June has become synonymous with the annual Rhino Charge, an adventurous off-road event that gathers 4x4 enthusiasts, friends, families and intrepid conservationists together to raise money to protect Kenya's mountain water towers by supporting the Rhino Arc Kenya Charitable Trust. This is the 36th running of the event that has raised billions of Kenyan shillings for the cause. The impact of the fences which have been built to safeguard these precious mountain ecosystems is clearly visible, not just from an environmental perspective, but also for the communities who border them. Rhino Charge began back in 1989, when a group of like-minded motorsport enthusiasts and environmentalists got together to create a fun event designed primarily to raise money, but also to provide a challenging off-road event, the first of its kind anywhere. Those early adventurers turned up in their standard day-to-day four-wheel drive cars, without winches or modifications to drivetrains or suspensions. Just a fearless desire to drive as straight as possible, that would begin a trend of humans known as bush madmen. Today's cars are a far cry from those early days. Today they are sophisticated purpose-built off-road machines with portal axles, powerful winches and a menacing appearance that tells you they mean business. Whilst thousands of dollars have been poured into these beasts, the challenge of the charge remains the same: to travel as straight as possible over or through any terrain. This year, the Rhino Charge would head north to Simo-Soy in Baringo district, nestled close to one of Kenya's most beautiful lakes, Baringo. The rain had been plentiful in the lead up to the charge, and this normally dry, hot, semi-arid area was stunningly lush. HQ for this year's event was situated beside a dense riverine forest that ran along the main Ngaratuku Laga, which had recently been in full flow. The surrounding valleys and hills left no one in any doubt this year that it was going to be a tough charge. We caught up with teams at the pre-event scrutineering, which takes place the day before the Rhino Charge. Safety is always the top priority, alongside making sure the GPS tracking devices have been properly installed.
We've had a complete rehaul of it, so we added new portals, a lot of modifications, so we practically built the car from the ground up again. Okay. So it's a big difference, some new adjustments to the suspension, new locker kits, so just preparing for this year's charge.
Well, you know what, for AK-44 and Adil, my brother, the charge means everything. Conservation is in our blood, we love to do it. The vehicle is the same Land Rover that we've been running. Has portal axles this year, so we've raised it a bit off the ground just to give us a little bit more flexibility. But you know, we're really excited, but we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring.
Look at the terrain, man. You need big toys now. So stronger, harder every time, every year. It's more challenging. Every year you have to build it stronger. You look at the competitors; they're not sleeping. They're building really tough cars. So yeah, it's a unique event that way.
Students from Brookhouse School once again were on hand to help with documentation and assist the officials at each point of the checks. For the first time ever, this year would see the introduction of an electric vehicle at the event. Purpose-built by the team at Nick Foley's workshop for Team 29, the EV Explorer was here to take innovation to a whole new level.
You know, it's I think what's special for us is last year we thought it was going to be our last charge. It was our 10th charge together. We've had Car 63. It's been an amazing experience, but it was one of those sort of symbolic moments for us. And by the end of it, by Sunday, we not only decided it wasn't our last charge, we were going to carry on for years to come. We also decided that we wanted to build the first EV. And so the fact that that sort of campfire conversation turned into 12 months later having the first EV in the charge is incredibly special.
This year would also see the introduction of drones as a search and rescue asset, replacing the teams of gyrocopters that have for many years operated in the skies to keep an eye on the chargers.
Yeah, so this year we are providing drones for the search and rescue team. Phantom Technologies has a history of working in conservation and security, so we thought this would be the perfect event to kind of showcase how we can work together with the ground search and rescue and with the fixed wing that's going to be hovering above there.
Yeah, we're looking to have a great day, good day of four-wheel driving, having fun, and hopefully finishing.
No. I think from what I can see, if it's going to be in this group of hills, I can't imagine it's going to be a long charge. It's going to be quite a short charge. So it's going to be very straight lines and trying to do something stupid, I'm sure, at some point. So yeah, it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
The Classic Charge also returned for the second year, designed to introduce new teams to the event in unmodified cars. These competitors follow a shortened course covering 8 of the main event's 13 checkpoints. This year, 4 teams had opted to take on the shorter challenge.
We are racing in a modified category of Rhino Charge. And so basically it's the workshop team who are here, represented by our driver and our navigator, and all the runners are all the mechanics and just workshop team.
Kids from the nearby school came out to see what the Rhino Charge was all about. The driver's briefing took place at the Whitecap Bar, where event director and clerk of the course Don White welcomed teams and briefed them on some of the dangers that they might encounter the following day.
There is an extraordinary number of thorns in this venue, more than any venue I've been in before. For the competitors, we've asked you to put eyewear, 2 pairs each on the car. Please, please, please use them at all times. I will remind you that we are mandated to look after life and limb, and your eyes counts as part of that because it has a severe impact on your future life. So please look after your eyes. It is a medical emergency and will be treated as such, and you will be evacuated. We've given plenty of awareness of the dangers of bees. It's not to scare you, it's to prepare you and make you aware. The bees is the single most risky thing in this place, and additional with the heat and everything else, it's a pretty potent combination.
Finally, teams received their maps and headed back to camp to begin plotting their route for the following day. There are 13 guard posts with GPS coordinates that teams must reach via the shortest distance possible in just 10 hours. To add to the fun, teams will start from one of 10 different guard posts. These differing start points, which are drawn from a hat, will determine how teams approach the event. As the evening light fades, we join some of the teams as they begin to plot their routes and discuss strategy for the following day.
Well, I'm not part of what they're doing right now. That strategic planning is, that's reserved for those who have strategic knowledge and experience. So
his job is to pick up the tires and move them.
My job is to pick up tires and move rocks and build bridges. So.
It's hard to tell of this because I've just been paying attention to the coordinates. I haven't looked at much of the contours, but it looks extremely hilly. Everything seems either on top of or somewhere along the slope. Closer together than I thought they would be. But
Quite a compact route this year.
Yeah, looks pretty tight, but that's usually a worrying sign because that means you really need to go straight. So probably imagining fine margins between the winning teams.
A quick look on the map at some of the routes planned by different teams demonstrates how they individually interpret the map and terrain as they plot their strategy. Sunrise on May the 31st, 2025. Teams gather at the lineup, ready to be taken out to their starting guard. The atmosphere is always jovial, and an excitement builds ahead of another challenging day. This year, the ambient temperatures were expected to hit the high 30s, and heat was certainly going to be a testing factor. Crews would need to stay hydrated if they wanted to make it through the day.
Our regular car, we changed the engine and the computer will not read it.
Okay.
So at about 3 in the morning, we put together this, and here we are, modified.
Yeah, but it's a different challenge. There's a class to win.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
So we will try. It should be fun.
Yeah, well done, well done. Yes, gentlemen. You good?
Yeah, that's very good.
Go on.
As teams moved out, they would get a first glimpse of the venue and the challenges that lay in wait. Not everyone's day, however, was off to the best start. The Land Marway team dropped their car on its side, just getting to the starting line. There's a moment of calm at the controls before the start. Teams do last checks, ponder whether the previous night's work matches the terrain before them, and the runners begin to scout the routes ahead.
Are you all set?
Yes.
Looking forward to the challenge?
Yes.
Okay. What did you learn from last year that you've brought forward to this year?
Better navigation this time.
Yeah.
Trust your mapping skills.
The countdown is broadcast across the radio channels to each control, and at precisely 7:30, the 2025 Rhino Charge gets underway. The synchronised start sounds out across the event's radio, with Motorsport Supremo Jean Todt in his capacity as UN envoy for road safety, flagging off teams from Solex. Solex was positioned on top of a hill with a very steep, rocky descent for anyone planning to go on towards ocean agriculture, and the organisers had believed it unlikely anyone would attempt it. Team Husey, sponsored by Stihl, and with Stihl in their veins, took a look, decided it was on, and using their rear winch, drove straight off the edge. They were aiming to finally make it to the top step of the podium, and knew it was going to take something special to beat their rivals. Not to be outdone, the roving rogues soon followed Team Husey off the cliff. There were 3 steps to this slope, and even with a long cable, they would need to use a series of anchor trees to reach the bottom. Multiple winners, Team 42, had opted for a different strategy, which meant they were running in an opposite direction, heading towards Mantec first and then tackling the charge anti-clockwise. Taking on the same course as their bigger brothers were the unmodified cars. Danish Team 54 in their old Land Cruiser, following in 42's tracks. However, whilst car 42 powered its way through the bush and up the hills, the Danes were forced to pull out their winch and start working their way towards Mantec. Car number 1 had started at Mantec and were now making their way towards Solex, but Gremlins were at work and they had already lost their brakes. On reaching the control, their ignition coils were overheating, so had to stop to cool them before they could get back on their way. Aquamist was situated on a hill out on a northerly limb. Teams would either be heading on to Gridless or to Toolcraft, which in turn meant an early assault on the gauntlet. There was a good mix of starters here, with the mighty rock crawler of the Hatarius Chargers lined up with the all-lady team Zambarao Heels on Wheels. Karutu Chargers were trying out their new car for the first time, while another new entrant from the Foley Workshop Mechanics was also taking on the Classic Charge in their first attempt. Another team from the Foley stable, Paul Foley, was leading up a team from the UK taking on the unmodified class. Hatarius Chargers are another team hoping to take top honours for the first time, and as the others followed each other out of the control, they took their time to get their bearings right before tackling the first sector. Unfortunately for Team Motomoto, early damage from a rock meant they were losing precious time already. Back at Solex, the first teams were beginning to arrive. John Bowden had had a good first sector from Mantec as he set about defending his unmodified title.
Not too bad, but I'm not tempting Providence at the moment, okay?
The Hog Charge team were without Mark Tilbury for the first time in 27 years. He was taking a hiatus and leaving son Robin in charge this year. Team Rhino Sirius were unfortunate to lose rear-wheel drive on just their second sector, and with just a winch and front-wheel drive remaining, they would crawl their way around 8 guard posts. Team Husey had set the mood, and the lads in Team 48, who had started at Gridless, are never shy to take on the challenge. They were next to drop off the steep hill towards Ocean.
Down a little bit.
Come to the charge, they said. It will be fun.
For the soldiers of Team Batuk 58, it would be a lonely walk scouting ahead of their team as they made their way towards Solex. With all this excitement so early in the day at Solex, it was easy to forget the first teams were now already tackling the gauntlet, opening up the trails that would become highways later in the day. Team Phoenix Rising were battling their way around the hill from Toolcraft as they attempted to find a route up the hill to Auto Express. There was no avoiding having to pull out the winch. Hatarius Chargers would be the first team to power up the steep hillside, opening up the straight line to Auto Express. Such feats would have been impossible just a few years ago, but with powerful, fast-winding winches, the super-modified cars were putting on a real show for the spectators. Team 57 were coming from the opposite direction, having started at Slater and Whitaker. Going anti-clockwise, they would begin their attack of the gauntlet from KWS. They would then drop down to Toolcraft on the tracks made by Hatarius Chargers. Despite being in the second tier modified class, they were giving the big boys a run for their money. The Braeburn 49ers were on a similar track to Team 57 as they made their way from Slater. The two teams would stay together all day after plotting the same course. For those going around the hill from Toolcraft, there was a gully that needed crossing before you could begin your ascent, which proved to be challenging for the pathfinders. There was also unexpected mud for those that had tried to drive along it. The Rhino Chargers would have to put their new winch to the test. The South Africans were making good use of their winch as they climbed up to Auto Express. Team Taz, often plagued by gremlins, was still going strong at this point of the day. The high point of the charge was this beautiful hilltop at the Flower Watch guard post, where you had a 360-degree view of the venue that stretched all the way across to Lake Baringo. Surrounded on all sides by steep slopes, there was no simple approach. The mighty Nissan patrol of the Gecko Tribe Chargers was powering its way up the hill from Tire World on their second attempt at the charge.
It's going on well, man. This is our third one now.
Car came up here without an issue at all.
It's beautiful, man. Nice, good incline.
This year was especially tough on the runners, who found themselves either running ahead up steep hills to find the best route, or trying to keep up when their mounts left them behind, with no other choice but to keep powering up the hills.
Not today.
The Bundu Fundis were once again going as straight as possible.
Hi.
They met Hatarius Chargers at Flower Watch. Such is the camaraderie amongst even the fiercest of competitors, there was time to exchange notes on the day so far. The Fundis then set off down the hill on the same tracks Hatarius had made as they came up the hill from Slater. The Umbuzi bandits were keeping company with the Fundis, following in their tracks as they made their way around in the same direction.
Right to it, right! Slowly here, slowly.
In between Tire World and Flower Watch, Team Huzi ran into a swarm of bees. 2 team members were badly stung and needed to be medevaced by helicopter back to HQ for treatment. Despite this, the team opted to continue and were soon seen dropping down from Flower to Slater. The charging hippos weren't far behind as the track started to become more established. It wasn't long before reports came through that Team 12 had also been attacked by bees. Newcomers in Car 17, Pumba Patrol, came to the rescue, lending them a bee suit and towing their car out of trouble. Once again, the Medivac chopper was called in to rescue one of the team members. Elsewhere, Team AK-44 had started the day with some very impressive and committed straight lines. However, it cost them over 2 hours and they would need to play catch-up if they were to finish. Mantec was one of the more gentle controls to approach, and a chance for crews to take a quick break before heading back into the tough terrain that characterised the southern and western parts of the course.
It's fun? Yeah, it's not easy. Not easy at all. But it is a hell of a lot of fun.
Where have you come from?
From Jersey in the Channel Islands.
Right.
A long way from home. Yeah. To be beaten up in the African bush.
Car 5 arrived after a relatively easy run from Gridless, but would have a tough sector to Solex to contend with next. There was also a chance to repair broken machines. The Bush Rovers are always strong contenders, but the effects of some aggressive straight lining would cost them time, forcing them onto the roads later in the day.
It's the Lunatic Express.
The Coastal Rovers were a new entrant this year. Unfortunately, their planned car wasn't ready in time to compete, but this didn't stop the team coming to the event and taking their completely standard support car out on the course. Tackling the Classic Charge as first-time entrants this year were the Pumba Patrol in Car 17, who weren't shying away from the challenge. Also taking part in the Classic Charge were defending champions car number 18, Till I Die. They would finish second after picking up 1.35 kilometres in road penalties that cost them the eventual win. As the temperatures continued to climb and the charge reached its midpoint in the day, there was plenty of action at the gauntlet to keep spectators entertained. The Aber Daredevils had started off strongly, working their way through the gauntlet. However, they underestimated a boggy patch in the riverbed and would get stuck, breaking a CV joint in the process. Eventually, the Danes in car 54 came to the rescue and pulled them out. Robin Tilbury was doing the Hog Charge team proud as the little Land Cruiser made its way up to Auto Express. Team Carzone made light work of the gully that was now a well-defined route to KWS. The day had started off well, but later, on the Tiger line to Gridless, the car fell on its side. A rear arm had snapped, signalling the start of a gradual disintegration to their rear drivetrain. It took a couple of stabs, but eventually Land Marway powered their way through. The Cementers racing team showed that all the hard work to redesign their car had paid off, as they made the crossing look easy. The Bush Babes made their way across. Initially, the car slid offline, but after another attempt, they too powered through. Meanwhile, coming back in the opposite direction, Land Marway had a small mishap, falling on their side as they slid into a ditch. The Rhino Charge's first ever electric car was creeping its way quietly through the bush. The near-instant power the electric motor provided, however, meant wheel spin in these slippery conditions was a big issue. Eventually, the drivetrain's screams went silent, but lessons were learnt as this experimental car continued its development for future charges. The second Batuk team, Car 59, would sacrifice their own chance of finishing by stopping to rescue the EV Explorer. Team Ollie Choda have competed on more charges than any other, and are seen here between Slater and KWS. The King 21s were sticking to their previous night's plans and were having a good day as they stayed on track to reach all 13 guard posts. Team Choms powered their way past the EV car and up the hill to Auto Express. Team 56 Bigfoot were on course to finish 6th in the modified class, a good day's work in the whistling Land Rover. Deeper into the bush we now ride on board with Gecko Tribe Chargers to just get an idea of how dense the vegetation was around the venue. Tyre World was situated at the top of a valley with a ridge separating them from Sotao and the Copycat guard posts. This was possibly the most difficult area of this year's charge. Despite being geographically close together, it would prove extremely challenging to navigate the area. Once over the ridge, there was a steep gully to tackle before reaching the control. Team 5 dropped down from Sotao before climbing up into the control. Team Ollie Choda were on a different strategy and came over the hill from Copycat. Car 48 powered through from Sotao on what was now becoming a well-established track.
You climbed a few hills today, Harris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love this hill.
How are you boys doing?
Whilst most of their rivals had opted to go Tyre World, Flower Watch, Slater and then KWS, Team 48 were one of the few teams to go from Tyre World to Slater and then up to Flower Watch. This meant they would then drop down to KWS. A quick look at the map shows that there was just 40 metres difference between the two alternative routes as we compare the paths of Team 48 with that of Team Huzi. The rock crawler of the Frying Squad also took it in their stride, although the runners had their work cut out to keep up. Meanwhile, in the opposite direction, Hatarius Chargers and Moto were heading to Sotao together.
across to copycat.
42 followed suit, also making light work of the steep incline. However, for the more standard cars, just getting through the gully was a challenge. The climb offered little traction. For the UK Foley team in car 4, they would eventually have to find a route around the initial climb. Watching on was the Little Willie's Jeep of Team 27, who opted to follow the Foley route. No such problem though for Dominic Rebelo in his deranged Rover. His team were having one of their best events ever. The car was behaving and they would finish 11th overall, just missing out on a top 10 result.
Start her up and get her cooling. We've got 15 in. I don't think so, no, thank you. Do you want a hand, John? No, I'm just cramping. You can start now if you want.
Mate, how are you getting on?
Yeah, all good. We've got fuel that's too hot.
The smiling Shenzis were having problems with overheating fuel, which they solved by adding cool petrol at each stop. After an easy climb up to the guard post, they then took the straight line over the hill towards Flower Watch. Across at the Ocean Agriculture Guard Post, there were a couple of luxuries awaiting crews that made it to the control. Freshly baked pizzas, which would make any Italian chef proud, were being turned out of a portable oven. For those that couldn't take the heat anymore, there was a chance to cool off under a shower system that must have felt like heaven. We caught up with some of the crews as they took a moment to catch their breath.
I'd say it's been amazing. I feel we've done extremely well today. It's our first time we've ever done this, and the boys have been fantastic. I mean, our two navigators, excellent.
We got off to a terrible start because a boulder after 300 meters broke our left brake caliper. So we spent 2 hours fixing that. Other than that, it's been good.
Team Aussie Rules made their way down the riverbed out of Ocean, heading towards Flower Watch. The Fat Rhinos had started the day at Copycat, getting the hardest part of the course out of the way early, and were enjoying a chance to recuperate as the line to Ocean followed the open riverbed.
Started off okay, then had our power steering belt come off and brake 3 times, and then trying to play catch up now, so we've got 2 more controls to hit and might get there.
Unfortunately for the Gecko tribe, broken studs and a detached rear axle put paid to their chances of a finish. They weren't done though and would battle on using the road to reach 2 more guard posts. Team 39 had gone haywire on their first sector between Ocean Agriculture and Gridless, rolling the car. A tyre then exploded, warping the rim, and they would spend hours before getting going again. Determined not to end the day there, they battled on to reach 2 more guard posts. Their efforts were not in vain though, as they won the Tiger Line. Back at the Gauntlet, the gully was still providing entertainment. But if that wasn't enough, the team still had to battle back up the hill to the guard post. Team 64 haven't had the best of results in recent years, but this year they were managing to turn their fortunes around. Consistent, straight-line driving rewarded them with an impressive 8th overall and 2nd in the modified class. John Bowden demonstrated why Team 9 are the kings of the unmodified class, taking on the same line as the big boys ahead of them. Always an impressive team to watch, they would once again take top honours in the unmodified class. It was their 5th victory in a row, and they also claimed 10th place overall. A fantastic charge. Team Rhino Sirius were still working their way around the course, and if ever there was a way to demonstrate the prowess of the powerful modern winch, this was it, as they climbed up to Auto Express in front-wheel drive, the winch effortlessly winding them in. Likewise, the Bundu Fundis showed the spectators how effective the rear winches are at assisting vehicles in the drop down impossibly steep rock-strewn descents. They would fall just short of finishing the course this year, but could console themselves with victory on the gauntlet. However, the team in Car 7 were keen to show that it could be done without a winch by simply sliding down and giving those watching near heart attacks. Team Hoosie didn't waste time with the winch either, instead sliding down the hill. The Americans in Car 13 were enjoying being back at the charge and keen to demonstrate what their unmodified Range Rover was capable of. Still recovering time from their earlier exploits, AK-44 powered up the hill. They would be forced to use the roads to reach their last checkpoints, and the ensuing road penalties meant despite getting to all 13 guard posts, they would be deducted 1 control, dropping them down to 23rd overall. At Slater and Whitaker, the girls in pearls were seen making their way, and most importantly, enjoying their day out. Meanwhile, the KTM Chargers arrived from the gauntlet before heading on towards Tyre World. Time was running out. Back at Ocean Agriculture, the open riverbed that led to it was a chance for teams to make up some time after crawling through the thick bush. Team 42, multiple winners of the Rhino Charge, had once again shown they haven't lost any of their magic. Some good lines kept them in the hunt, and they would finish this year's event in 7th place overall. The defending champions were also going strong. They had just 1 control left, heading back to their start position at Flower Watch. Despite carving out some fantastic lines, they'd be forced to settle for 9th overall this time out. King 21s were also on for a finish in 2025, the last of the 16 teams that managed to reach all 13 guard posts. As the day drew to a close and the clock ran to its final hour, we caught up with the action back at Aquamist. Car 48 was embroiled in a battle with the Smiling Shenzis as the 2 teams made their way from Aquamist to Gridless. They decided to stay on top of the ridge before dropping down a steeper descent into the valley, while the Smiling Shenzis, determined to shave a few metres off their rivals, dropped off the ridge earlier and took a different line. Their efforts proved effective, and they took the Tiger Line between Aquamist and Gridless. Team 45 were also desperate to reach as many guard posts as possible before the end of the day, and were using the road to save time. The Hatarius Chargers had had a magnificent day out, setting shortest sector times and opening up some incredible lines. However, overheating fuel had cost them time, and in order to finish, they had to cut and run to get back to Aquamist in time. They would have to settle for 5th overall.
It was good. It was good.
Yeah?
Bit of issues with our fuel pump.
Okay.
Our fuel boiling. So we had to keep topping up fuel to keep it cool.
Yeah.
We lost one man right at the first checkpoint. He fell into a hole and dislocated his knee. So he was sitting in the car the whole time giving me company.
Okay.
What a ride. Awesome course.
Brilliant.
Loving it.
For the Foley team visiting from the UK, they would make it back to their start control, but had been forced to call it a day, having visited all but one of the guard posts. They would take second in the unmodified class and finish 21st overall. Nonetheless, a fantastic result.
Cheers, thanks, cheers.
Tough day out there?
Yeah, there were a few sections that were pretty tough, but we got you. That was a good day, enjoyable.
Team Huzi powered their way back to the finish at Solex. Despite losing 2 team members during the day's exploits, they were confident of a podium finish, but would have to wait until the following day to see which step they would be on. While the big boys battled it out for overall honours, the little tick of Team 57 was the biggest surprise of the day. They would finish 4th overall, win the modified category and leave plenty of the more powerful cars in their dust.
Yeah, so a fantastic day, absolutely amazing. It was nice to be plotting the route in the evening and knowing that you can finish the charge, and it was a short charge. Getting out there in the morning and attempting some of the stuff which the big cars were doing, I think was our only solution to even come close to them. It was quite a tough charge.
This year, the Spirit of the Charge Award was presented to the Search and Rescue team, who were called out several times to evacuate team members who had been stung by bees, injured during the day, or suffered from dehydration brought on by the extreme heat. Captain Anthony Miner, Saningo Martin and emergency medic Damsano Cheng were worthy recipients. This year, the Victor Ladorum was won by Alan McKittrick and Team 5. This would be Alan's last event at the helm. He has won the award an incredible 25 times and has also won the event outright 5 times. His contribution to the charge has been immeasurable as he passes the baton on to son Graham. Before the post-event party can get underway, all teams have to check back into the Brook House Guard post located at HQ. As the sun set, the celebratory drinks began to flow at the Whitecap Bar. Once again, the success of this year's event was down to the incredible team of volunteers led by Don White. With fun at its core, Rhino Charge 2025 had brought chargers to another new and spectacular venue. Prize giving took place the following morning under the shade netting at the Whitecap Bar. Every year there is financial support given to the local communities that host the event. This assistance comes via the sale of entry tickets and water that is bought from the community. This year the Simosoy community received a cheque for 8,887,000 shillings. This money will be used for projects that benefit all the community in the area, who will decide under Rhino Arc's supervision where it is needed most. Rhino Charge is at its heart a fundraising event. With this ethos in mind, the most prestigious prize is therefore the one awarded to the top fundraisers. And while there were some familiar names atop the podium this year, there was also a new team in the mix. Taking 3rd overall was Team Aussie Rules, who showed their commitment to the cause by raising 8,507,000 Kenya shillings. For the second year, the fundraising runner-up was Team 23, led by Peter Kinua. They raised a fantastic total of 13,476,000 Kenya shillings. But top honours were to go to Adil Kawaja and Team AK44. an unbelievable 139,007,995 shillings rolling into the coffers.
Thank you all our supporters, our sponsors. Without you we can't raise this money. I fell short on my own target. Last year I raised 173. I wanted to raise 180, but I started very late. I started collecting money in April, and then I changed my goal and said I want to do $1 million. So maybe next year I'll achieve the first one. So thank you everybody, and thank you.
But who would take the top spot in terms of the charge itself? An accolade that these crazy 4x4 enthusiasts are all too keen to take. It had been a fascinating battle of wits and tactics all day between the top teams, and they hadn't disappointed in their commitment to claim this year's title. In third place, Team 48. Past champions on numerous occasions, it was another podium finish for them. Shaving off just enough to overhaul them in 2025 and returning to the podium, the smiling Shenzis, claiming second place. And in what seems like a long time coming, the 2025 event saw Team Husi lifting the title for the very first time. This was undoubtedly one of the most popular victories and finally cements their place in charge folklore.
I think this means a hell of a lot to all of us. We've been trying bloody hard for way too long, and also fitting because our first charge as Team 33 was at Baringo, quite close to here, so it's nice that the first win was also here, however many years later. I don't even want to count.
15.
But yeah.
15 years.
15 years.
For full results of this year's event, including the various categories, visit rhinocharge.co.ke. With every team that enters the Rhino Charge committed to raising money for the cause, a tally of this year's fundraising reveals that once again a staggering sum has been achieved. Sponsors, competitors, families and friends adding an additional 269,520,463 Kenya shillings to the ongoing conservation efforts of the Rhino Arc Kenya Charitable Trust, who have, for 36 years, safeguarded Kenya's mountain water towers and forest ecosystems. While new donors and partners join in the fight to save Kenya's forest each year, it is funds raised by the chargers that are primarily used to fund the maintenance of the legacy fence line projects on Mount Kenya, the Aberdares and Iburu. Rhino Arc is also at the forefront of a continued battle that threatens the precious forests of the Aberdare mountain range. The proposal of a 52-kilometre Mao Road project would see it cut through the forest, risking disruption of critical wildlife corridors, destruction of closed canopy forests, the increased risk of vehicle-wildlife collisions, and the endangerment of biodiversity and lives. The project remains a grave threat and would set back much of the hard work that has been done to protect the Aberdare ecosystem and its critically endangered species such as the black rhino and the mountain bongo that total less than 100. For more information about the incredible work of the Rhino Arc Kenya Charitable Trust, please visit rhinoarc.org and don't forget to follow them on social media for the latest updates. As the dust settles on the 2025 event, teams are already looking forward to the challenge that awaits them in 2026. The dedicated team of volunteers that brings the Rhino Charge to life each year are now once again on the hunt for a new location. As always, it will remain a secret until the very last minute. But we guarantee we'll see you there.